What's going on, guys? Continuing on with the Super C engine rebuild here. I have installed my piston sleeves. I stuck them in the freezer for about 3 or 4 days and brought them up here, put them in, set them in. I beat them in with a block of wood and a rubber hammer. Before I did that, I used some regular dish soap on my O-rings. Put the new O-rings in the groove, clean the grooves out. Just put regular dish soap in the O-rings, lubed them up, beat them things in. They went in, I would say, easy. They set in there and then beat them down with a block of wood and a rubber hammer. They went in pretty easy. Some people have asked me about my rod bearing journals, about my bearing size, what I'm going back with. They had standard bearings in it. Took them out. You look on there, they'll say what size they are. Mine are standard, which means same size they came in when this thing was brand new. I don't have a manual to tell me what those journals for the rod bearings are supposed to be. What I did was I mic'd them. They all mic within a half a thousandths of each other. If you had a manual, a rebuild manual, it would tell you what the tolerance is, what they're supposed to be, what the tolerance is on that, how much tolerance you got. But a half a thousandths is not much. So when I ordered my kit, I've gone back with the standard size bearings. If you pull them out, you won't be able to see it on this camera, I'm sure. But they say standard on them. STD standard. If they're out of tolerance, you're gonna have to pull the crank out and send it off and have it machined. And then you're gonna have to buy oversized bearings. The kit I purchased, it gave you an option on the bearing size. You could have a 2 thousandths oversized, 10 thousandths, 20 thousandths, or 30 thousandths. If you just having it cleaned up, you probably go back with just a 2 thousandths oversized bearing. But if you have to really have it machined, if it's scarred up, really gnarled up and screwed up, then you're gonna have to go with 10 thousandths, 20 thousandths, 30 thousandths, or whatever. I'm also doing what's called an in-frame rebuild, which means I'm not pulling the crank out. I'm not putting new main bearings in the crank. I will say this. If I had it to do all over again, I would probably invest. I don't have a cherry picker or an engine stand, but I would probably invest in one. Pull the whole motor off, set it up on an engine stand to where you can flip it over, get to the bottom of it. Would have made things a lot easier. Having said that, probably would have ordered the kit, probably would have pulled the crank out, got new main bearings, and all that stuff. But in order to pull the motor off, you have to take your front end off. On any of the A's, B's, Super A's, C's, Super C's. I'm assuming M's and H's are the same, I don't know. Because you got to take this cover off, your timing cover. You can't get that off without taking the whole front end off. If I'd have done that, probably would have pulled the crank out. Probably would have put a new rear main seal in, front main seal in, even though these not showing any signs of leaking. If you're going to do all that, you might as well do it. So that's where I'm at right now. Also, on Thursday when I was putting my rings in, like a dumbass, I broke one. My last piston I was doing, of course. And so I called US Farm Parts back up. They sent me a one set, piston ring set for one piston. I was afraid I was going to have to buy, a whole set for all 4 pistons. But they sent me another one. It was like $9. I think the shipping was more than the price of the kit. Anyway, it cost me like $25 or something to buy it and have it shipped, which is still better than the $50-some it would have cost me to buy a whole set of 4 and have them shipped, which I could have got at Napa. I went to Napa and they could have got them for me, but they wouldn't. It came as a kit of 4 and not as a I couldn't just buy one set for one piston. So I called US Farm Parts and got one. But that's where I'm at right now. I'm going to try to, later on today, if I have time, before I got to go to work, get these pistons in, get everything in, and then it's all downhill from there. Putting the head back on, oil pan back on, firing this bad boy up. Just a couple tips when you're putting your pistons back in. These rods are numbered. It's kind of hard to see. This is the number 2. It says number 2 right there and number 2 right there. You want to make sure you keep those. They got to be lined up. Numbers on the same side. You want to make sure you oil your raceways up where your bearings are going to go. Oil your bearings up when you put them in there. And it's very important that you keep these numbers the same for your rods. And when you're putting your pistons back in, you want to make sure that those numbers go towards the camshaft. If you're looking at the front of your motor, your camshaft is going to be on the left. So when you put those pistons in, make sure those numbers on those rods and the caps go towards that camshaft. And oil everything up. You're not going to have, it's going to take a few minutes to build oil pressure when you start this thing back up. So when I put these things in, I'm going to oil everything up. Rings, put a lot of oil on the rings. I bought a ring compressor to install them. I'm going to oil them up, put the ring compressor on, put them in. You know, that's important because you're not going to have any oil pressure. And it's going to smoke when you first fire it up. It should only smoke for a few minutes. And then you might get some blow by, you might get some more smoke. It's going to take some time, maybe even a couple heat cycles for these rings to set themselves in there. Like I say, them sleeves I ordered came honed. If they had not come honed, I would have went to Advance and rented a ball hone, and I would have honed them, knocked the glaze off. They're already honed. So, just a few tips. I'm no professional engine builder, but I picked the brains of some people I know who do build engines, and just trying to pass it along. I appreciate you guys watching. Comment, subscribe, rate, whatever, or not. That's where I stand so far. And I appreciate you guys watching. Thanks.